What's up, everybody? It's your favorite coach's favorite coach. Apologies for the hiatus. I think it's about 2 months since I uploaded my last video, but we just recently opened a training facility in Santa Cruz, California, and needless to say, it's taken a lot of time and energy to get that up and running. This is a long overdue paradigm shift series episode, and it's part 2 of what makes Duncan Robinson so special. And my primary focus is looking at Duncan Robinson's shot, namely his feet and that distinctive offhand he has. So in sort of a Cliff's Notes rundown of what makes Duncan Robinson so special, it's his efficiency. And I'm not just talking about statistically, we're talking physically, athletically. This guy's designed to be a shooting machine. What's really cool about Duncan Robinson and his efficiency with his feet is you can watch one of his highlight videos all the way through where he's piling on threes and he only takes about 3 dribbles throughout the entire video. Even more interesting is how he's able to create space and generate rhythm with his footwork. His entire shot starts in his feet. He does what we call a push 1-2 or a momentum catch, where you essentially bound off of your outside foot into space where you can safely catch the ball, simultaneously creating a consistent rhythm, bound 1-2. This method's not unique to Duncan Robinson, as guys like Ray Allen, Kyle Korver, and Klay Thompson have kind of championed the concept. But if you were like me, you were taught to curl off of your inside foot off of a handoff or a screen. So this is dramatically different. And while this does help generate a rhythm, versus NBA level defense, you're going to have to create a more evasive strategy to get that shot off. As he catches the ball, he grounds himself directly into the floor. This downward momentum allows you to vertically rebound off the ground quickly. This helps you generate rhythm and allows you to be efficient because now you're utilizing the stretch shortening cycle, making the movement quicker and more effortless. And because this is now a plyometric movement, any amortization phase slower than a clap, you're no longer using the stretch shortening cycle, you're using muscle. And that takes more energy and time. So now going back to look at the actual steps, does it look like he's traveling a lot at the time? Yep. And my only explanation for that is that it's the NBA, and generally the interpretation of the traveling rule is pretty creative. So yeah, a lot of times he does travel, he takes that extra step, but if you want to efficiently use this type of footwork, you just have to time your catch with your inside foot touching the ground. This acts as a brake foot to stop your lateral momentum, and your second step is for rhythm, and also aids your upper body in addressing the target. Now let's take a look at his offhand and what that tells us about his shot. His offhand is always placed on the upper left side of the ball, and that's simply to counterbalance his right hand, which is on the bottom right side of the ball. And this shows us a couple things. So he catches more like a football player as opposed to the paradigm of catching palm to pass. His hands are going to be in a more natural catch-ready position, so he is catching on the side of the ball. I like this better because it's one variable that allows you to generate rhythm in a short amount of space. I find that sliding the hand into position, dip through release, is a lot more natural than catching with the wrists and hands loaded. It's a lot easier to transfer energy rhythmically if everything in the chain is in motion. It's almost counterintuitive, but the dip is very important to a quick release, and that's because it connects the upward momentum transfer into the upper body, thus allowing you to use that plyometric footwork. Duncan Robinson keeps the ball relatively extended up until his release point. And this is another key note because one of the most common problems shooters have is chambering the ball or bringing it towards the body before you release. This takes your perfect arc and turns into a flat catapult-like shot. It also disrupts the upward momentum of the kinetic chain. And the dip is yet another thing that many shooting coaches frown upon because they think it's too slow. But ironically, if you use this style of shooting that really starts with the feet, you're going to be so evasive that you're going to have more open opportunities. And if there's somebody in front of you that can block that dip, you're not open and you're not going to shoot anyways. And now we come to that Duncan Robinson signature offhand release. It could be a timing mechanism, like it's the highest point of the set point and that's when he releases, but that could absolutely just be conjecture. One thing's for sure, it's very consistent. If you look at all his highlights, you can see that exact same position in the hand on every single one of his shots. Probably the best explanation for it is due to the fact that he catches like a football player. His hand is never directly under the ball. That means during the process of the shot, at some point the ball could roll out of his hand if he doesn't counterbalance with the offhand. So just before that release point, he simply removes it, pulling it away from the ball in the exact same manner every single time so that it doesn't affect the shot. And that hand is essentially frozen in the position it was bringing the ball up, and that just shows how consistent this guy's mechanics are. That's something you need to be a great shooter. He's obviously one of the best shooters in the league, if not of all time, and he's carved a niche for himself in the NBA, being able to create a high amount of offense in a small amount of time and space. So now my paradigm shift for this entire video, because of the fact that we're all physically built differently, there is no one correct way to shoot. When developing your shot, you have to optimize it towards your attributes. There's definitely some universal fundamentals of a consistent shooter, like following through, catching on balance, but the bottom line is there's just simply too many physical variables to have one single shooting method. And all of us have heard those shooting coaches talking about the right way or the best way, and that's just simply not the case. Like if Shaquille O'Neal put mocap sensors on him and was able to replicate Robinson's shot exactly, I don't think it'd work for him. Anyways guys, glad to be back. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you on the next one.